A couple of times now I've referenced this Chinese parable of the horse. Um, the short version of it is a farmer comes across a wild horse. It kind of runs up to his farm, and his neighbor says, "Oh, how lucky you are!" And the farmer says, "We'll see." And then the horse runs away, and the neighbor says to the farmer, "Oh, that's just terrible. What a turn of bad luck." And the farmer says, "We'll see." And the horse returns and it's brought, a dozen of its friends. So now the farmer has a dozen horses, and the neighbor says, "How lucky you are." And the farmer says, "We'll see." Over and over and over again, like this. The moral of this parable is it's very difficult for us to see if something is good or not good in our lives. It's hard for us to see the future, and so we don't know how things are going to turn out. So verses like that one that Laura just quoted, that all things work together for good, are very encouraging for us. Um, we also have this verse, Matthew 5:16, "Let your light shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven." And keeping that parable in mind and the reality that we often can't see the consequences of our actions, whether they're good or bad, that kind of got me stuck on this concept of what's good, what is goodness, because we're called to be good and to do good works. And so, what does that mean? And so, I thought I'd just lob that bomb into your lap this morning. How do you know what is good? What does goodness mean to you? All answers acceptable. You don't have to be like a philosophy major to jump on this one. But what do you think? How do you know what's good? Thank you all for your responses. At the risk of making a pun, they were good. I don't really need to expound, I don't think. I think we could meditate on those. But this is simultaneously like a very simple question, because like Josie was saying, we kind of just know what's good instinctively. And it's also really deep. Like, how do we determine what's good in any given situation? And as you know, I've been working through trying to figure out how to live out love in practical ways as the last year has unfolded. And so I kind of was planning to skip over goodness, but kind of like Mark, I didn't really have any other choice. So we're going to look at goodness today, and I have a new respect for this term or this concept as a way to live out love every day. So I just want to share a few of those um, ideas that I found in the Bible, and also some practical ways to live them out. The first one is goodness of heart. Amy was telling me about, she does reading for like counseling and uh, recovery for people who have addictions. And one doctor has identified that all human beings have two very strong fundamental desires. The first is authenticity, to be who you really are. Some of you are like, yep, I get that. And the second is attachment, to be connected to other people in loving and caring relationships. Yes, I think most of us can agree we have all of those. The trouble comes in that we first get a taste for attachment when we're very young. We start to make friends, and then we become unwilling to risk that attachment by being our authentic selves. And so we hide. And there's always this tension between being attached to the people that we've grown fond of and being who we really are. And that can lead to all kinds of weird experiences of shame, of pretending to be who we're not, of trying to fit in. And in doing so, we actually damage both our authenticity and our attachment, because how can you be attached to someone who doesn't really know you? And so we have these dueling, apparently self-inflicted dueling drives of authenticity and attachment. And we are, at our core, we're torn in our heart about how to live in connection. And so we have this verse in Galatians that talks about the fruit of that Holy Spirit that Mark was talking about, that comforter that comes and guides us. And it says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. And we can quickly identify and come up with word pictures for almost all of these words, but I think for me personally, the hardest one is goodness. It's almost generic. The Greek word is a really weird term because you've probably heard of the word good. The word agatho or Agatha is a name that you've probably heard. It just means good. The weird part is that sune, the suffix, the sune means the very core of a thing, the nessness of a thing, like when you get down to it, when you cut all the way down to the heart of something. And so when you put that word with that suffix, we end up in English with goodness, but it's not a very full word. It means like goodness of heart or goodness at the core. This word is only used 4 times in the Bible, and it's found nowhere else in all of literature. The only time agathosune is used is in the Bible, and that doesn't help us define it very much either. Agatho is used lots of places, inside and outside the Bible, but this agathosune is kind of a complicated word that's not used very often anywhere. And so we're left with this concept of goodness of heart as being one of the fruit of the Spirit, or part of the fruit of the Spirit, rather. And so in living this out and trying to conceptualize this goodness of heart, one of the things that I do is try to imagine if I were to apologize to someone for my actions. So say I am interacting with my kid, and if they are hurt or offended by what I've done or by what I've said, would I feel shame if I had to apologize for whatever that thing is? And I think if I can genuinely say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you, my intentions were good, I meant nothing but goodness for you, then I have goodness of heart in those actions, that I have nothing to be ashamed of. Yes, I did cause you harm, and no, that was definitely not my intention. And so in trying to get toward this goodness of heart, for me, if I can imagine what it would be like to apologize for something I'm doing or something I'm saying or a way that I'm approaching someone, and I feel no shame, then I think I'm getting at that goodness of heart. And maybe that's a practice that would work for you too. If you just imagine apologizing for the way you're treating someone, what would that be like for you? And so for me, goodness of heart is unashamed of our intentions and owns the harm that we contribute to. Again, not that it was intentional, but it's something that happened that we can apologize for. The next concept that I encountered in the Bible is goodness of mind. Several decades ago, I used to watch a show called American Idol. Is that thing still around? I don't know. It was a long time ago. I used to watch this show, and they had 3 judges that would judge these people that were trying out to be, I guess, pop stars. One of them, I believe his name is Randy. He's there on the left. He was kind of a fair and just judge, for lack of a better term. Like he would give people pointers on what they could improve on, but he was also really encouraging. Paula there in the middle was just seemed to love everybody and had nice things to say all the time. And then you have the jerk on the end there. Simon was just known for being brutal, and he almost seemed to enjoy really cutting into people and hurting their feelings. And while that makes for entertaining television and, sympathetic feelings for those poor contestants going up to sing in front of Simon, that is not fun in real life. Have you met some of those people that just don't seem to have anything positive to say ever about anyone all the time? It's not a great social interaction if you've experienced it. In Ephesians chapter 4, verse 29, it says this: "Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear." And the image here is almost like a construction project. And if you've been, there's a construction project right outside the building I work in at OTC, and you see all these cranes that are lifting up beams and supporting the structure as it's being put together, and there's a framework built around where they're working. And that is the image for how we can use our words with another person. It's not to tear down, but to build up. And what's interesting about this idea of using our words to build up is it's not enough just to speak good things. We also have to focus our mind on seeing those good things to begin with, right? And so the way that I try to practice this in my life is to focus on what you want to grow, because the things that you direct your energy toward are the things that grow in your life. I don't know if you've experienced this, but it's very difficult. Like I've never been a smoker, but I've known friends that have quit smoking. And if you want to quit smoking, it's not enough just to try real hard to stop, because then you're just thinking about not doing that thing that you really want to do all the time, right? And so the best advice that my friends who have quit smoking have come across is you have to replace it with something else. And then you focus on that new thing, and the thing you don't want to do anymore just kind of falls away because you've replaced it. You're focusing on something positive instead of on something negative. And that's also the way we can treat people. If we want to say kind and positive and building up things to other people, it's not enough just to like throw platitudes at them. We have to look at them and we have to see the good things in their life, the good ways that they treat other people. We have to appreciate when they're thoughtful and kind to us, and just see and speak what's true about them. And in doing so, they will become that person, like Rima was saying, the person that we're created to be, who we really are. And so for me, focusing on what I am interested in growing is the surest way to help me speak what's true of another person. And so goodness of mind sees good in others and speaks about it. Third is goodness of presence. Amy recently, or not very recently, but in her previous position, she worked for the Northwest Project, which is run by the Drew Lewis Foundation. They do a lot of good work in the community, but it's run by a woman named Amy Blansett. If you've ever met Amy, she is a presence is the best way to explain her. She is not warm and cuddly, and I think she would agree with me saying that. That's just how she is, but she gets things done. She sees something wrong or some need in the community, and she tackles it. She is a tireless worker. She has a strong sense of justice, and she doesn't really take no for an answer. She calls people to task, and she gets good done. And that, I think, is the image of goodness of presence, which is another way I found that we can live out love in the world. In Galatians chapter 6, verse 9, it says, "And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up." Now, this doing good is not that agatho word that we talked about earlier. It's different. It's a different word. Literally translated, it means making beauty or making goodness, which is really a wonderful image. Let us not grow weary of making beauty in the world, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. And that brings to mind the image of a gardener. Gardens are lovely places to be, but it takes a gardener to make them so. And there's a lot of digging in the dirt. There's a lot of manure. There's a lot of taking care of pests that goes into making a lovely garden. It's making the world beautiful. And that is a way that we can live out love in the world also. Riffing on the idea of a gardener, there's a gardener that lives in an inner city named Ron Finley, and he has turned the inner city into a lush garden. These places that are abandoned and you could almost say abused places, he turns into places that you would want to go with lovely plants and vegetables and flowers. Um, he's quoted as saying, beauty in, beauty out. And that is certainly a way that we can live out love in the world as we are filled with and guided by this comforter that Mark was speaking of earlier. How can we help but let that beauty out? So, one of the ways we can do this is to find a cause that you believe in, something that drives your passion, something that fills you with purpose, and do it unashamedly. Make the world a more beautiful place. It can be a cause for social justice. It can be just a neglected part of the world. It can be painting or singing or whatever. Don't leave the world less beautiful. Leave it more beautiful because of your presence. That's what God does. Perhaps one of God's first his first names was gardener. He put us in a garden. The garden didn't get there by accident. God made it that way. God is the gardener, and we can be like God in this way. We can make beauty in the world. So goodness of presence makes beauty in the world, and we can do just like the gardener we follow. So the three ways I've found to live out goodness in the world is to imagine apologizing for something that I've done or said. It gets to the heart of goodness. To focus on what you want to grow. Don't focus on the negative, but see what's good and true and talk about it. And to make beauty in the world, whatever way that looks like for you, big or small, huge issues or small, just make beauty as you go. In Luke chapter 6, verses 35 and 36, this is Jesus' perhaps most shocking teaching. It's the teaching that separates Jesus the most from other religious leaders. He says, love your enemies. We can stop there, but he goes on, love your enemies, do good to them. Jesus equates love with doing good. Lend to them without expecting to be repaid. Then your reward from heaven will be very great, and you will be truly acting as children of the Most High. For he is kind to those who are unthankful and wicked. You must be compassionate, just as your Father is compassionate. And so while this throwaway term goodness seems like something easy for me personally to gloss over, it might just be the key to loving everyone we meet in the world, to do good, to make beauty, to be unashamed of our intentions and to see what's good in them and then tell them about it. So may you live unashamed of your heart and your intentions. May you focus your mind and words on building up the good you want to see in the world. May you make beauty in the world with passion and purpose, and may goodness move in and through you.